Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Hawaiian Garlic Shrimp Scampi. That's right, I've received a bunch of requests to make this, and after tasting it, I understand why. And if you're a garlic lover, you're going to want to grab a pen and pull out your bucket list and add this recipe to it. And yes, by the way, scampi does mean shrimp. So this recipe is actually called Hawaiian Garlic Shrimp Shrimp. But redundant names aside, I absolutely love this, and I really think you will too. And what we'll do to get started is peel an entire head of garlic. And to do that, I'm going to show you an old trick for doing it all at once by using a couple bowls. And all we need to do is separate the cloves into one bowl. And then once that's done, we'll put the other bowl over the top. And we will give it the old shake-a for about 30 seconds or so. Or until all those peels are knocked off the cloves. Oh, and let me give you a little warning. If you're freakishly strong like I am, I think I might have shaken this a little too hard or a little too long, because it appears that one or two of my cloves broke apart. But forget that. The point is all those peels came off really easily, and we didn't have to peel those one by one. Oh, and I was too lazy to walk over to the sink. But if you pour a little bit of cold water into this bowl, those cloves are really easy to grab out. And then what we'll do once we have about 8 or 10 nicely peeled cloves of garlic is take a knife and chop them up, but not super fine. Okay, we don't want minced garlic here, because what we're going to do next is toast it golden brown in some butter. And if it's too small, there's a chance it could go too far and burn. And when I first start out with this, I'm not just mindlessly chopping down. I'm actually aiming for some of those bigger pieces and going a little bit slowly and deliberately until it looks like I have a lot of consistently sized pieces. And then we can speed up and chop this as small as we want, which, like I said, is not going to be super small. Okay, I think the perfect chop size for Hawaiian garlic shrimp is right about here. And that's it. That is now ready to go into our butter. So what we'll do next is melt 4 tablespoons of butter over medium heat. And we will all take a couple seconds here to watch that butter slide across the pan, which I find very relaxing. And maybe a little too relaxing, since I never focus the camera for the shot of the garlic going in the melted butter. But anyway, once that butter melts and starts to foam up, we'll go ahead and stir in our chopped garlic. And our plan here is to cook this stirring over medium until it turns a beautiful golden brown. And while you don't have to stir constantly, don't go anywhere. All right, golden brown is good, but golden black is not going to work. So we're really going to need to pay attention here and catch it right at that perfect level of toastiness, which for me was right about here. And don't forget, after you turn the heat off, this is going to toast even a little bit more. So you're not going to want to go any farther than this. And then once that's set, we'll pull it off the heat and transfer it into a bowl. And we'll reserve that so we can add it back into the pan once our shrimp are cooked. Speaking of which, what we're going to need here is 1 pound of fully thawed, deveined, but shell-on shrimp, which is usually sold with some kind of name like Easy Peel. And while you can make this with the shell off, that's not how they do it in Hawaii. And by leaving that shell on, you get so much extra flavor. Or at least that's what they officially tell people. Okay, I'm going to be testing that theory later, as I am going to try a second batch without the shells. Oh, and the reason for the paper towels is you want to make sure these are as dry as possible. So make sure you drain these very well and then pat them nice and dry. And then once those are set, the only other component we need is our starchy spicy coating, which is going to be made with a couple tablespoons of rice flour, or if you want regular flour. But rice flour does work better, and it's not that hard to find. All right, just head for the gluten-free aisle. And then to that we will add a tablespoon of regular paprika, plus a teaspoon of the finest cayenne you can find. And then we'll finish up with some salt, at which point we'll simply give that a mix. And once combined, it's ready to toss with our shrimp. So we'll go ahead and remove those paper towels, and then go ahead and sprinkle over that coating mixture. And the reason we're being so generous with that, as well as with our garlic butter mixture, is because if we are using the authentic method, and we're peeling off the shells, a lot of that goodness is not going to be attached to the meat. So we want to make sure we have plenty to go around. But anyway, we'll sprinkle that over, at which point we'll take a big spoon or spatula, or spoonula, and mix these until they are very evenly coated, making sure, of course, every nook and cranny is covered. And that's it. Once those are thoroughly and completely covered in our coating, we will head to the stove to cook these up, which we'll do over medium-high heat in a nonstick pan in a few tablespoons of olive oil. And a pound of shrimp's going to make 2 portions, and I'm just cooking 1 here, because we do not want to crowd these. All right, we definitely want to use what I call the Beyonce method, which is just a single layer, just a single layer, just a single layer, just a single layer. All right, so if you want to do the whole batch, you got to use a bigger pan. And since we're not going to crowd these, they're only going to take a couple minutes per side. So we'll give that first side about 2 minutes, and then we'll flip them over. And then give the other side about the same. And of course, when I say 2 minutes per side, that's just a guess. All right, you're the one that actually has to decide based on how big your shrimp are. I mean, you are after all the Kanaloa of how long to go, brah. But a couple minutes per side is a pretty good guess. Oh, and in case you're wondering, the best size shrimp to get for this dish, I think, are the 21 to 25 per pound size. All right, when you buy shrimp, there's usually 2 numbers on the bag, like 1620, 2125s, and those numbers simply refer to how many shrimp per pound. And then what we'll do once these have been beautifully cooked on both sides is we'll go ahead and toss in our toasted garlic and butter, and we will stir all that together and cook that for about 30 seconds or so, at which point it's going to be ready to serve. And if you enjoy the smell of cooking garlic, which I really, really do, it does not get any better than this. It is just absolutely intoxicating. But anyway, let me pull it together and pull these off the stove so I can serve them up on some white rice, alongside the traditional fresh lemon. And please do not be shy about spooning that toasted garlic and butter over the top. And that, my friends, is nothing short of garlic shrimp heaven. Or in this case, garlic shrimp heaven. So let me go ahead and squeeze over some lemon and dig in. And with the shells on these, you basically have 2 approaches to eating. We can go ahead and pop the whole thing in our mouth, and then spit out the shell once separated. And that method will deliver the maximum amount of flavor, which, by the way, was tremendous. But the downside is the feeling of shrimp shells in my mouth is not one of my favorite sensations. So the other much more popular approach is to pull the shell off before eating, which is of course very messy and does take a good amount of effort. But in fairness, it isn't quite as hard as I'm making it look here, since I was trying to do this with one hand, which is not recommended. All right, what you want to be doing is not filming this at the same time and eating this outside on a picnic table, going at it with all 10 fingers. And also adding to the challenge here, every once in a while you get a batch of shrimp where the shells are really, really super thin and paper-like. And this batch was like that. And don't worry, I will go back and eat that meat I left in the tail sections. Oh, and I should mention, just that toasted garlic butter on the rice is pretty much worth making this recipe for all by itself. So good. And yes, at a certain point I did give up on the one-hand method, which did make things a little bit easier. But anyway, to summarize, Hawaiian Garlic Shrimp Scampi with the shell on is insanely delicious and absolutely one of the best garlic shrimp recipes you'll ever enjoy. Okay, searing these in the shell really does add some flavor and does help keep the shrimp from drying out. But if we're being honest, definitely a little bit of a hassle to eat. So in the name of science, I did a second batch. And other than peeling off the shells, I did everything exactly the same. All right, same garlic butter, same coating, same searing in the pan, same rice and same fresh lemon. Although I did change the placemat. And in my opinion, I found these to be just as flavorful. All right, just an explosion of garlic shrimpy goodness. And of course, way, way easier to eat. However, there is one major difference. All right, with the authentic method, we're not necessarily supposed to be eating all the coating, which is why we use so much. Whereas here it's seared right onto the shrimp. So that aspect is definitely more pronounced. And we do get somewhat less of a pure garlic and shrimp flavor profile. But when you weigh that against how much easier these are to eat, I think I do prefer these over the authentic shell-on version. And I keep using the word authentic, although I'm not really exactly sure how authentic these are since I've never been to Hawaii. All right, to be honest, I've always been a little bit afraid to go, ever since I saw that Brady Bunch episode when I was a kid. But from what I've seen, what we did was pretty close. So ultimately, if you decide to make these, you're going to have to decide whether to go with the shells or not. But the good news is, no matter which version you make, they are both incredibly delicious, and a must-make for any garlic and/or shrimp lover. Which is why I really do hope you give these a try soon. So please follow the links below for the ingredient amounts, a printable written recipe, and much more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.